you all know that chemical reaction is taking place in your body. That's what we're talking about, biochemistry. We're looking at the introduction to biochemistry. The first question that should come to your mind is biochemistry a discipline or a branch of biology, or is it that of chemistry? Now the answer is biochemistry is a branch or is fundamentally a discipline of natural science. So we have natural science. So biochemistry is fundamentally a discipline of natural science. So we have biochemistry. Now, but this is an exclusive understanding of biochemistry. You need to also know that biochemistry has two words, chemistry and biology. That means that biochemistry can also or is a branch of biology and is a branch of chemistry. Now, why do we say that biochemistry is a branch of biology and also a branch of chemistry? Now, look up at the board. You understand that the word bio means life, and the word chemistry. All right, let's use the word chem. All right, now what does the word bio mean? What does the word chemistry mean? The word bio is talking about biological molecules. Now, the biological molecules that we're talking about in biochemistry, they are these carbohydrates. Let me use another pen for that now. 1, carbohydrate. 2, proteins. 3, lipids. 4, nucleic acid. And the nucleic acid could be the DNA and the RNA. The nucleic acid could be the DNA and the RNA. All right, now these are the major biological molecules that we have. We have other biological molecules. These are major biological molecules. They are the majors. They are the major biomolecules or the biological molecules. Then we have other biological molecules like the vitamins and minerals. We have the hormones. We have the enzymes. We have the ATP, which is adenosine triphosphate. All right, now these are also considered as biological molecules, but they are not part of the major biological molecules. Now, we're looking at also water. Well, why I have to put water in the box is that water itself is an inorganic solvent. So water is not an organic matter. It's inorganic. But because matter serves as a solvent to enhance or promote the reactions that occurs in biological molecules, that's why we can add water as a biological molecule. But water in itself is not a biological molecule. So we want to now look at when we talk about biochemistry. Let me use the word BCH. We'll talk about BCH and we'll talk about bio in BCH. What are we discussing? We're talking about the structure and function of biological molecules. We're talking about the structure and the function of all these biological molecules in a living organism. When we talk about the chemistry aspect, the BCH, remember BCH is biochemistry. The chemistry aspect of biochemistry is talking about, chemistry is talking about matter, properties of matter. composition of matter, and the reactions or the chemical changes that occurs in matter. So we're talking about the properties, the composition, and the changes. The changes, properties, composition of what? Biological molecules. All right, you see now, we're talking about the properties now, the changes, the composition of biological molecule. That's the aspect of chemistry in biochemistry. Now, with this understanding, we can now define what biochemistry is. Now, what is biochemistry? We can define biochemistry as biochemistry, let's use BCH again. Biochemistry is simply the study of chemical processes at the cellular and the molecular levels of living organism. So biochemistry is simply the study of chemical processes that occurs at the cellular or the molecular levels of living organism. Or you just put it this way: biochemistry is the study of chemical process at the cellular and the molecular level of living organism. Or you can put it more simpler by saying biochemistry, BCH, is the study of the chemicals of life. So any one of those, but more comprehensively, biochemistry is the study of chemical processes at the cellular level, at the molecular level of living organism. Now, I want to give you a summary of these. We see biochemistry in this way. Let's say we have the word biochemistry. Now, you can move up and then you can move down. Now, moving down in biochemistry, you are going to find the concept of chemistry. Why do we find the concept of chemistry? Because chemistry is talking about the composition, all right? The composition of those biological molecules. So we're talking about the individual atoms that makes up the biological molecules. The atoms of element that makes up the biological molecules. When you go down more, you are going to find physics. Of course, physics. I'll show you why. So, why do I have to bring in physics here? I'll tell you why. You know, when you go down in biochemistry, you're not talking about not just the atom, but the subatomic particles. And then when you talk about the subatomic particles of these biological molecules, you have to bring in the idea of physics. But when you move up in biochemistry, you talk about biology. Now, biology, we're talking about the cell structure, the cell itself. All right, so you can see that biochemistry is a branch of natural science. If you did a little bit of science or you did science before coming into the undergraduate school, you'll find out that you have done physics, you have done chemistry, you have done biology. So you're going to combine the knowledge of biology and chemistry fundamentally, and if need be, the knowledge of physics, which all the three of those is from natural science. And in case you don't have an idea or you want more teachings or classes on natural science courses like the physics and the chemistry, the biology, and even the mathematics, you're gonna go to your search button and type there W.A. Nehemiah. That's my name, W.A. Nehemiah, Special Sciences. WA Nehemiah Special Sciences. You're going to find all the science courses that we have there. But for this YouTube channel, this one that we're using to teach this one now is basically for medical courses or bioscience courses, all right? Now, biochemistry, medical microbiology, parasitology, a lot of those. Now, over here, we want to look at a little bit history of biochemistry. Biochemistry has an history. Now, what's the history of biochemistry? In fact, there are so many scientists that contributed to the development of biochemistry. But there is this one scientist that coined the name biochemistry in 1903. His name is Carl Newberg. So, Carl Newberg coined the name biochemistry. But there are other scientists that contributed to the development of the concept or the subject biochemistry. Scientists begin to work on the molecular origin of the causes of disease and the molecular origin of so many organisms. Now, for the causes of disease, you know, every disease has a molecular origin. And if we can know the molecular origin of a disease, we can actually diagnose the disease. We can actually also create a curative or a preventive measure against the disease. If we can understand or have a knowledge of the biological molecules or biological molecule origin of that disease, we can actually create a curative or preventive measure to fight the disease. So what they're doing in biochemistry is that we're studying the molecular levels and the cell structure and the molecular structure of many biological molecules. That's what we are doing in biochemistry. And again, you notice the chemistry aspect of it, which I didn't tell you, is that it involves body composition of the biological molecule, the physical properties and the chemical properties, that is properties in general, of the biological molecules, and the changes. The changes involve both the positive and negative cations, anions. For reactions to occur, there must be cation and anions to transfer electrons. So what biochemistry is doing is that it's combining biology, chemistry, and if need be, physics, and giving you a good health knowledge. This is all we've got for you in this class. Thank you very much for your time. See you in our next class. Have a great day.